starting now. Okay, so you should see eThuto, and I'm in one of my courses, one of my training courses. And we're going to start looking at the grade center first, and then I'll move along to the retention center, which is what we use to track students either who are doing well or not struggling, or maybe not attending lectures or anything like that. This is great for reporting. So when it gets to the end of semester and you need to report back on your student engagement, the retention center is quite good for that. Okay, seems like everyone is getting the attendance just fine. Let's get going. Please stop me if anything is unclear, and we'll stop and talk about it. It's a very informal session, so you're welcome to stop me and just check in. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to the grade center. The grade center is your Excel spreadsheet in eThuto, basically. So this is where all the marks are kept. Now, when we create assignments or tests or any of the other tools and add a marking element to it, it will automatically create a column in the grade center. But we can also upload columns from Excel sheets, which I'll show you today. So if you have marks in other Excel sheets and you want to put them also in your grade center to keep, you can do that. You can also add manual columns where you can insert marks for your students that you maybe was from an assignment that they did not do in eThuto. So I'm going to go down to my grade center under my course management section and expand it. Now you'll see that you have two main items here, needs marking. And this is where we go when we need to mark assignments or tests or anything that needs instructor input. And then the full grade center where the spreadsheet is kept. And then we have two buttons here, one for assignments, one for tests. And these are called smart views. And you can add new smart views here if you maybe use discussions often that you mark. You can add that as a smart view, or something where you just click on it and it takes you to only the assignments columns quickly. So that's nice to have if you use a certain tool a lot. So I'm going to click on full grade center now. And this is what that will look like. You will have more than 3 students, I wager. But this is a test page, so I just have some dummy students in here. And then the first row, the rows are the students, and you'll see that you have different columns. Now the columns in gray, you can see that those columns are gray and those columns are white, are frozen, but we can change that, and I'll show you that in just a second. The columns in white are the added columns, and these will be your assignments and tests and discussions and anything, like I said, that has a mark allocated to it. And you can just scroll on to go through your columns. Okay, now you can see that these students haven't completed anything. We will complete an assignment in just a second so that you can see what it will look like in the grade center, now to access it again. But for now, all of these are blank. So the first thing I want to show you is the tab at the top with 4 drop-down menus. The first one, create column, very simple. We just create a single column that we manually input marks into. So I'm going to click create column. And remember in eThuto, whenever we see the orange asterisk, we have to complete this field because it's required. And when there's no asterisk, it's optional. So it needs a name. So I'm going to call this let's call it will activity. So in other words, they were out on their will 3 or 4 weeks and they came back, and now this is where we're going to put it in. So it's not an assignment they did online or a test. It's something that they reported back on, and we are going to manually input that score. Now you can give it a name that is shown in the grade center. If you do not complete this, it will default automatically to the name of the column you gave it, but you can also give it a name that is different from this name if you want to. And you can put in a description. Whatever the case may be. And as with anything where you have the content editor, you can upload files. If there's a file that you need to attach to that column, maybe just for archiving or maybe for auditing, if somebody has to come in, a moderator has to come in and also check the file. Maybe there's a template of how you want them the moderator to look at it, or maybe it's just a file that you want to attach to the column for, posterity. Then we have some options here. The first one is display, primary display. So you can see from the options that we have score, letter, and text. Now, these are normally for the Americans. They have different scoring systems. We normally either have score or percentage. Now, mostly I recommend doing it as percentage, because then when you download the grade center to type into your ITS at the end of semester, it's easier that way. That you don't have to first in Excel create a column to work out the percentage. So I always just change it to percentage. You could also do incomplete, complete, and this is nice for a manual column as well. If you just want students to complete a task and it's not scored and it doesn't count towards their mark, but you do want to see who completed and did not complete it. So you can also change it to that, but we're going to change it to percentage now. You can also have a secondary display, and in that case, it will split the column into two, and you'll have either both the percentage and the score, or both the percentage and the letter, etc. So you can also change it to that. Category. So what kind of category do I want this to fall into? Is it attendance? Is it self and peer assessment? Was it a journal? Was it a blog, discussion, test, or assignment? So I'm going to call this an assignment. They did an assignment outside of eThuto, and I just want to add it to my grade center. And then how much is this worth? Now, if you want to just have a column where you can input complete and we just want to input anything. I don't know why, but I see a lot of people putting in 0 here because they want a column where they can input some marks, but they don't actually want it to count towards anything. Don't do that. Remember, you can't divide by 0. So that would just make the whole thing null and void. So I'm going to put in 100 because it's percentage. And that's also the amount of points this is worth. And you can add a rubric. So if there's a rubric that you use to mark this assignment, you can put that in here. Now, to create a new rubric, you just simply click on create. And then you complete the rubric as is needed. Now, we're not going to show a rubric today in this training session, but we will do later. Or if you have never created a rubric and you want to know how, you're welcome to contact me and I'll quickly take you through the steps. But it's pretty straightforward. You just complete the fields as you would any other rubric and save it in. Okay. We can have a due date for this. So this was due, for instance, this Sunday at the end of day. And included in the grade center calculations. Now I'm going to show you calculated columns just after this, and this is what this infers to. So if you, for instance, have a weighted column or an average column or a total column, is this column supposed to be worked into that as well? So you can leave that on yes or say no if it's just going to be a column that is separate from all the others. Show this column to students. So are they allowed to see these marks yet? No? Okay, then we just say no, and we can always come back later and say yes if you want them to be able to view their marks, and then show statistics to the students. So do you want them to be able to see their average and median? So kind of place themselves in the group, how well they are doing or not? Yes or no? That's up to you. Just check with your HOD. Some of the departments have stricter regulations regarding showing students' averages. So I would just double check with my HOD if that is something I'm allowed to do. I'm going to leave it on no for now. And then you submit. Now, new columns are always created at the very end. Now, this is the problem that a lot of us have, is we have these inherited subjects, and there are so many things that we don't use anymore, and then all the new stuff is created at the back. The same happens with the menu. Everyone just starts creating new items here at the bottom, and it just becomes these long menus. I'm going to show you how to organize that in just a second. So there's my new activity. And because this is not something that is connected to an assignment or a test or a discussion or whatever, you will have to complete this column manually. And to do that, you simply click on the student row and corresponding column cell, and then input the mark. So I'm going to say Tesla scored 85 because he's a clever guy. Leandri did not do so well. She struggled a little bit. And then Wynand got a solid 65. And now there are your marks. Okay, and that is how you input just a normal column manually. The next thing we're going to do is the calculated columns. So if you hover your cursor over this tab, you'll see that you can create an average column, minimum, maximum, total, and weighted column. So what I'm going to do is create a weighted column to show you now. The others work in exactly the same way. So if you know one, you know all. But weighted is what we use most often. Okay, so now we're going to say column name. I'm going to call this semester 1. So these are probably the semester 1 calculations. Again, you can give it a grade center name. So if you want your students to have a different name, you can just say semester 1 progress or something like that. Again, you can give a description, but it's also not needed because it's not a required field. Again, we want primary and secondary display. I'm going to leave it on percentage because that's just the one that makes most sense. And now here is where we decide which columns and how much do they weigh. So first you can do categories. So if you have, for instance, discussions and all the discussions are 50% of the weight, then you can do discussions, or you can choose per item. Okay, so I'm going to do per item, but it works exactly the same. So I'm going to say assignment 1, highlight it. I can see here quick column information, what it was. Okay, I'm going to move that over with my little arrow here. And I'm going to say assignment 1 is worth, let's say, 40%. This was the big assignment they had for this semester, and this counted the most. Test 5, come over, highlight it, bring it over. This was worth 30%. And you'll see that it tallies up at the bottom for you, so you don't even need to do the math. And attendance is going to be the final 30%. And there we have our 100%. Now, if you do not make it to 100%, it will not allow you to submit. It will stop you. So make sure that you add all up to 100%. Calculate as running total. This means that if test 5 hasn't been written yet, it's still going to give you a running total for the student. So yes or no. So as you go through the year, it's going to give your student a running total or no. I would suggest saying no because it confuses students. They don't always understand the running total, but it's up to you. Including in grade center calculations. So again, you can have this weighted column be included in another weighted column later on, or in a total column or something like that. So you can say yes if that's going to be the case, or say no if not. Show to students or not. So again, if it's time for them to view it, you can leave it on yes, but if you still want to keep it hidden, you just check no. And again, show stats, same. And then submit. Now I have to just input some scores here to show you how because there are no scores, that's why it's going to be on 0. So test 5 was 1, for instance. I'm going to say Nicola scored 80%. And the other one was assignment 1. And you'll see now that now we said no for the running total. So it's not going to give us anything until we have all of the columns. Just looking for that attendance. Okay, let me change it to physics. That's going to be easier. Okay, so if you want to edit any of these columns, you just go to its little drop-down menu and say edit. And now I'm going to change, for instance, I'm going to bring attendance back, just deleting it. And I'm rather going to choose that physics and bring that over for the other 30%. Submit. Okay, so I'm glad this happened because this happens and then we're all confused. So what is happening now is that is not a possible thing. So these columns are not set to percentage. They must be set to marks. And obviously these marks are less than what I gave them here. So I'm going to go and change them to percentage. That's why it's always better to choose columns that you know, to always put your columns in the same grade view. So I'm just going to go and change these from score to percentage. Oh, that's a, I'm going to do the same here. Sorry, I think I have columns that I'm missing. Okay, sorry, I had two that is called assignment 1, and that's what's happening. I could not figure that out. Let's just do this. Also a good thing to see. So while I'm making mistakes, at least we're learning. Try and name your columns, uniquely so that you don't end up like me looking like an idiot. There we go. Okay, now we have some proper calculated columns. Okay, so it worked out our column according to that 40, 30, and 30% for those 3 columns that we had. So that is how we create a calculated column. Took the long way around, but we got there in the end. Next thing I'm going to show you is the manager. This is probably the most important tab in the Grade Center. Organization is here, which is something I encourage you to do the moment you start your new subject, especially if you have one of these inherited subjects that have 20 tests already on there and assignments and things that you might not use, but you want to keep. And we can just go and hide and organize them. The other thing that I like about organization is I can decide what information I have here in the frozen view, so I don't have all of this that I don't need, and make more space for my actual columns. I'm also going to show you how to make some coloring schemes in your grade center so it shows up quickly who is doing well, who is not doing so well. So let's first start with column organization. And here you can see first we have the frozen, the default columns, rows. And here we have the ones we have created. Now, when you see a column that is grayed out like this, it means that it is hidden. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is hidden from student view. It means that it is hidden from you as the instructor in the grade center. This is purely for organization so that you can hide them so that they don't bug you while you're going through your grade center. But this does not necessarily mean that your students can't see them. When your students cannot see a column, it has this icon next to it. So make sure not to get confused between those two. So this column is not hidden from you, but hidden from students. That other column that we just saw is hidden from me as the instructor, but it might not be hidden from students. I will have to unhide it to check to see if it's hidden from students or not. Okay, so we can organize these if you want to by just dragging them and reorganizing them in whatever order we want. So as I was saying, it's frustrating when your new columns are always at the very end because you have to scroll. If I want to see my semester 1 progress for the whole time at the beginning, I'll just drag it all the way to the top, and now I'll see it as the first column when I open up the grade center. And you can do this with any of your columns. So just hover your cursor to the left of the name. And when you have your 4 arrows, you just drag and drop it to where you want to place it. Now to hide or unhide a column, simply check its box next to it. Go down here to show and hide, and then either show or hide the column. So if I show the column now, it will be black again and not grayed out in italic, and it is visible again. Same with this one. And then I can hide other ones, just checking it and saying hide. Okay, so let's have a look at these frozen ones at the top. Here I have a line that says everything above this bar is a frozen column. Drag the bar to change which columns are frozen. Now, for instance, we use student numbers, and these are their usernames, okay? And this is mostly what we use to, so I'm going to drag that to the top. But maybe I also want the last name, because that's how I organize my list according to last name. So I'm going to use these two. I'm going to hide these. And then I'm going to drag this bar up. And this is all that I'm going to see. When I'm done, I'm just going to hit submit. You can also delete columns from here, but it won't delete if the column is still attached to the menu. So in other words, if it's a test and the test is still here, it will refuse to delete it from the grade center. And you'll first need to go and delete it in the content area before it will delete. Okay, now we can see I only have these two grayed out columns. So I have more space in my grade center for my other columns, and I can see them easier here. I can also see that that calculated column I just created is now in the beginning. So it's first up for easy access. So this is nice if you have columns that you want to quickly have a look at to note if your students are doing okay or so on. And you just drag them to the beginning so that you have them available quickly. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is color codes, which is quite fun, but it's also very helpful to have an idea of how students are doing quickly with a visual aid. I'm going to click on color codes. By default, it will be enabled. You can check it off and then you won't have color codes. You can either have the status in color. So for instance, if a student is still in progress, so the student is currently writing the test, you can make that a specific color. Or if it needs marking, so if it needs your attention, or if it's an exemption. So if you exempted the attempt for the student, it will show up in a certain color. But we're going to create some colors for mark. So I'm going to put mark ranges, add criteria. And I'm going to say between, you can choose more than or equal to, less than or between. I'm going to choose between. I'm going to say between 0 and 49. Should be the background nice bright red. And now it's going to give me a preview here, and I can see that the black text doesn't really show up very well. So I'm going to go and choose a white text, which is this one. Perfect. I'm going to add another criteria. I'm going to say between again, 50 to 74 is going to be a nice green for pass. Again, I want to change that to the white text because it just looks better. And then I'm going to add a criteria between 75 and 100. These are my accelerators. So I'm going to make this, let's say, a nice blue. And these are my colors. Make sure that these do not overlap. If you have, for instance, 0 to 50 and 50 to 74, and a student scores 50, the system will not know which color to allocate because there are 2 rules for 50. So make sure that you have these like I have them now, no overlaps. Okay, but you can go and play around with that and have different kind of rules. I'm going to submit now. And now my grade center is going to change, and I can quickly see who's doing very well, who's struggling, who's passing, who's just making it. I see a lot of lecturers use color codes to help them identify students who are on the cusp, so who might qualify for a rewrite. So if your margin is 45 to 49, for instance, you can go and color up those students. Then you can quickly see who will be allowed to have a rewrite. So this is very helpful for that. Some of the other things that we can do is we can go and have a look at the row visibility, so you can hide students. I don't know if you ever would want to do that because the system is synced to ITS. All the students in your grade center will be active students who are currently registered, but it is available. Smart views. So like I said, we have the smart views here, assignments and tests. If you want to add some more, if you, for instance, use discussions a lot, you can go and add the discussions as a smart view. And then, sorry, I should add that. Why is it not adding it? There we go. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't take the first time. I think I missed it. Okay, and then you have a smart view. So that's something you can do as well. These McGraw-Hill Connect reports are purchasable items that you can buy. We don't purchase them for campus, but if you are interested in them, we can get you a seminar, but they are really expensive and they don't really help us in our South African context, so we don't really find them helpful. You can send an email to your students or users regarding a column from the Grade Center directly. Just works like any other email. You put in a subject and you send it out. You can change and add some categories. So if you don't have the categories that you want, for instance, in engineering, you call your practicals. So you can go and add practicals. If you need some more categories that are not in the default ones. Okay, so that's the manage. Very important. Go and have a look at that. And then reports. Reports are quite nice also for your auditing. I prefer to use the evaluation course reports, but these are nice for quick reports if you just want something that you have to show your students' progress. So we can just say create report. And then we give the report a name. Let's say this is end of term 1, whatever you would call it. What do you want on the report header? So yes, I'd like the date, institution name, course information. For instance, this will now be your subject name. And you can add the names of the users, your instructors or not. Then you can put in some custom text if there's anything that you need to add to the report. Who do you want to report on? All the users or specific groups or selected users? And then what do you want to show regarding their information? First and last name, maybe we add the username because we want their student number. Which columns do we want to report on? At the moment, it's on columns currently displayed in the grid, so the ones that we have not hidden, or we can have all the columns in a category. So if you just want to do all of your discussions, all of your tests, all the columns, or you can select specific columns. So I just want to see how my students performed in test 5 now, but you can do this for all of the columns. What do you want to show regarding the column? The description. So if it was a test, you want to show the test description, the due date, the stats. So I want the stats. I don't want any of the others. And then footer information. Do you want the report to end with a footer information? Do you want a signature line, a date, course information at the end? So you can choose these. We have the date and that on the top. So I'm just going to add the signature line just to show you. And then we submit, and it's going to take, oh no, it's quick because I have so few students. And now you have a little report that you can send out to your students, and maybe they have to sign to acknowledge that this was their mark, and that they can see that there's the median for the class and that they are below average, and they can sign it here. So to print this, just Control P on your keyboard, and then you can print it either to an Adobe or to a printer, whatever you do and want to use it for. This is a quick report, and it's quite nice for test marks and things. And I like the fact that you can add the signature space and hand it out to students, and they have to go and sign it as a form of acknowledgement that this is what they scored for their test. So that's reporting. Okay, so like I said, I prefer personally the evaluation reports. We have done training on this, so it is on the YouTube channel, but I do a training on this again because it is quite helpful when we get to the end of semester. But this is nice for just quickies if you just need some quick reports. View mark history, so you can just see what has been happening. So this is all your activity as the instructor. So you have been marking students. You can see that here. This user, so in other words, and in this case, an instructor has been giving marks. There's the instructor, last edited by, to this user, and there is the mark. Sometimes it was overridden, so a current mark was overridden with a new mark, and you can just see the history here. You can also open up the user to see if you want to check and double check who it is. In this case, it was me, and if the user added any comments, it will appear here. You can download this if you need to prove. So if you have an incident where, if multiple lecturers and somebody was marking, you need to download this to say that, yes, we did mark it, or whatever the case may be, you can download it over here. And then submission receipts. So submission receipts is something we use actually quite a lot. So a student will say, but yes, I did upload my assignment. And whenever they upload an assignment, they have a submission receipt. This is a very long, unique number. We don't need the number to find the assignment. We can just use the username. But if they did save the number, they can send it on to you and say, here's my proof I uploaded, and we can come and have a look. So either we can search by the username, or we can change it to that confirmation number that was emailed to them. Okay, I don't have a confirmation number now, so we're going to use the user information. I'm going to call that student, go, and you can see all of the submissions that student has made in that subject. You can see if there was a document attached, what size it was. Now, if this is 0, it means that the student uploaded a blank. So yes, they submitted, but there was never a document attached. Here you can see what the title of the assignment or test or activity was, the date, the submitter's name, and there's that unique confirmation number. Now let's say I'm going to copy this confirmation number. If you have the confirmation number, you can search, and then you don't have to go through all the students' activity. You can search with that. And then you can only see that one submission. So the student has a confirmation number. They tell you they did upload, and you can go and see, all right, yes, they uploaded. There was a submission, and this was the document, what it was called. And it was 17 kilobytes. So I know it was a Word document. They are quite small, and it seems legit, like something was there. Now, it very rarely happens that lecturers can't find submissions, but it does happen because some of you have these insanely large classes. So you have 600 students in your class, and then it's easy to happen. So that if you have very large classes like that, and it's difficult in the grade center. So now, for instance, if I wanted to go and get that same, I would have to go to the student name and then find that assignment, and then go and have a look at the attempts. I think I've cleared them I always clear there we go. No, there's no attempts here. Sorry, I cleared it for the training so that we can start fresh. But you would have to go and find the attempt like this. And if you have very large groups, it is very difficult to do. The subjects that have all of the students in, like personal information management, for instance, they only use the submission receipts to find students' submissions if they need to double check something. So it's very helpful if you have very large groups. Okay, so that's how we check those. Now let's have a look at uploading and downloading the grade center. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to download. And to do that, we go up here to the right, work offline. I'm going to click on download. And we have a couple of options that we can do. We can download the full grade center. This will exclude any columns that are hidden. So only the visible ones in the grade center. We can download a very specific column. So we can say selected column and then select the column that we want. So maybe I just want that semester 1 column, the one that we have, the calculated column. I only need that. I want to input it to ITS, or I need to send it to someone to do. And that's why I want to download it. You can include comments if you need to. What kind of delimiter do you want? So this is dependent on what you're going to do with the Excel sheet. I'm going to leave it on tab because I like that, but it depends on what you want to do with the Excel sheet. If you're going to upload it into another system directly, you might want to change that to comma delimited, and it will download a CSV file instead. Include hidden information? No. So if you say yes, it will show the hidden information like the user's ID and those things that we hid about the user. So that extra columns in the gray area that we hid. You can say yes and see them, or no, and then they will stay. Where are we going to download? Content collection, meaning it's going to stay in eThuto and it's going to go to my files here. Or I'm going to download it to my computer, which is where we're going to leave it for now, and submit. They have been processed, so I can download. It's going to download to my computer. Sorry, just open on the other screen. I'm going to bring it in. And then here you can see I have my columns. Okay, I can't remember if I shared the full screen, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to see my Excel sheet now. Can I just get a quick thumbs up from somebody just to make sure that you are seeing? I can't remember if I shared application or screen. You can unmute yourself or just in the chat or someone just pop me a little thumbs up. Can you all see the Excel sheet?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I did share the entire screen. Sometimes I forget when I have a brain dead day. Okay, so we now have our Excel sheet here, and then you can do with this Excel sheet whatever you do with your Excel sheets. You put them in, save them, send them to the auditors or the moderators or however what. So from now on, it's just an Excel sheet. It works like any other Excel sheet. But what's nice about this is we can now add stuff and re-upload it to change my grade center. Now, whenever you do this, when you change your grade center in any way or want to upload, it's always good to just keep working on a downloaded one. Don't try and create a completely new Excel and input username, last name. For some reason, it's supposed to work that way, but for some reason, I never get it to work quite right. So it's just easier to download the grade center and work from that as a template. What I always tell people to do is just download the user information and use that as your template. So I'm going to go work offline, download, and I'm going to just say user information only. And then I have this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a column manually here. I'm going to call this physics final. And I'm going to put the marks in for the students. Can't believe Tesla scored so little for physics. Okay, and I'm going to save it. So it's going to save automatically to my downloads because that's where it was kept. I'm going to go back to the grade center. And this time I'm going to say upload. Browse local. I'm going to grab that file. I hope that's the one I downloaded second. We'll see. It's going to tell me this is what's changed. So this is what's going to be added. This is what is different. And I'm happy with that. And now it's added a new column with its marks. So that's how we upload. And you can upload with multiple columns. So there can be 100 columns in there that you upload. And then you can even go and check them, the ones that you maybe not want. So if you have an existing file, you can just put them into your template that you download here and add those the columns and then re-upload it to add it to your grade center. You can also filter. So if you want to filter, just say what you want to see and not want to see. So this is your current view. You can, for instance, say, I don't want to see all categories. I just want to see the discussions, and it's just going to show you the discussions. Or you just want to see the tests. Or you just want to see certain statuses like needs marking. I just want to see everything that is, needs my attention. There's nothing at the moment, so that's why that. Or not attempted, or edited manually. So everything that I input manually. So that is how the filter works. So if you want to filter anything there. Okay, so I'm quickly going to show you how to mark an assignment. Let me just bring that filter back so I can just say all categories. There we go. I'm quickly, as a student, going to go and upload something that we can mark. So I'm going to show you how to mark it first of all, and then how to retrieve it once it's been marked. I just want to keep an eye on my time because we still need to go to the retention center. No, I don't want to switch. I don't remember what those were called. There we go. I'm going to go up to physics. No, you know what? I don't know how many I have to get in there. Why? So let's see, I need something like assignment 1. Okay, now I'm just wasting everyone's time. Okay, so student's going to go and upload something to their assignment. There's that confirmation number I was referring to earlier. So they receive it when they've done the submission. It also is sent to their email that is connected to their eThuto, so they also have it there. It's a good idea for them to save it, but we do tell them in training to do so. Okay, so once your students have handed in, you go to your grade center again, but this time you expand and go to needs marking, and you'll receive a list of all of the needs, all the items that need your attention. To go to the attempt, you just click on the username. It will show you the document. Now, if it's a PDF or a Word document, it will open up in the box. If it's another type of document, it will not, and you just have to download it here and then put in your score here. I can see it now because this was a PDF or a Word document, and you can take the pen and scribble on it as you need to, or you can add some text. And the student will be able to see this on the other end as long as the assignment is visible to them. You can also add your signature as an image or a sticky note or anything like that. Okay, once you're done, you just input the mark. If you had a rubric, it will appear here and you can use the rubric to mark, but we're just going to put in a 50, submit. And as soon as you are done, you won't have any more in the needs marking. And now when I go back to the full grade center, now remember, all of my columns that are new will always appear at the far right. So that's going to be all the way at the far right. There's that assignment. Like I said, assignments and tests and those things that you mark will automatically create columns. And there is the attempt. I can revisit the attempt through the main grade center by going to the corresponding cell from the column and the row of the student. Click its little drop-down menu. I can either go and view the attempt again. I can change. Maybe the student came in with extra documents or anything that I can give feedback to the learner. And then submit. So nothing is set in stone. You can always come back and change anything. And now there's, you can also see the history of that, view mark details. And you can see here, you can manually override again and put feedback in again. You can see all of the attempts from the learner, the feedback from yourself, and the value that they scored. You can clear attempts here if you need to, if you want to open up space for a student to submit again, or you can just allow them an additional attempt if it's an assignment or a test. You can exempt them. So if you exempt them, this column will not go to the total or other calculated columns that you've set up. You can view the attempts from here as well. But what I like about the view mark details is you can see in the mark history, the history of the assignment. So there's that first 50% I put in, and you can see that exact timestamp. And you can see that a minute later, I came in and overrode that with 63, and this time added feedback. So this is helpful to see the history, and there, if you open up the complete history, you can see the student actually submitting it. It's a little bit confusing now, I realize, because my name is both the student and the instructor name, but this was the student. You can see that's the student, and this was the instructor. This won't happen to you, of course. You will have different names than your students. Okay, so that is it for the grade center. I'm going to open up for 3 minutes for questions, and then move on to the retention center. Also remember that you can also anytime contact me with any questions. If you can't think of anything now, but it pops up into your head later, you can also put questions into the chat. if you have anything that you just want to type out, or unmute yourself and ask your questions. Now, remember that this video that I've recorded will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is called the CUT Learning and Educational YouTube channel. And you can see under playlists, there is an eThuto Talks playlist. And here I upload weekly eThuto Talks. So you can also go and view the historic ones from a couple of years ago and from last year. And then the new one will always be at the bottom. So I'll upload that a little bit later today, and you'll be able to go back and have a look at that. So remember this channel, CUT e-learning education and educational technology. And we have all the videos here. So it's not just eThuto Talks. If you go to the playlist, you can also see different videos for you as instructors. Here is all of that I've shown you today in just shorter snippets. So you can kind of see them, you know, in different snippets for the grade center. And then maybe if you want to create tests or anything, there are playlists for tests, there are playlists for facilitation, and there's one for the students as well. So you can come and have a look here as well for other videos. Okay, any questions? Anyone thought of any questions yet? Okay, I'm going to take that as everyone is good. So let's move on to the retention center, and then we can finish up for the day. And I hope all of you can take a weekend. I'm definitely going to try. Okay, so for the retention center, each subject has a retention center, and there we can create rules which highlight students depending on the criteria that we select. So this can be something that we use to keep an eye on students that are struggling, or keep an eye on students that have special needs, or anything like that. To open up your retention center, go to evaluation under your course management section, and then retention center. And this is what it's going to look like. At the moment, all three of my students currently are at risk based on one criteria or another. And I can see some other information here as well, some of the latest activities that they had. And I can see that all of my marking is up to date. If I didn't mark that one assignment now, I would have had a list of that here to see that I still have some things outstanding. Now, to create new rules, we just go up here to the right and say customize. We have 4 categories that we can create rules in: missed deadlines, marks alerts, activity alert, and access alert. So we're going to go in and set up how we want to be notified when these students. So these are the default criteria. If a student is 20% below course average, they will appear in the grade center. If the last time they accessed your subject is greater than 5 days, they will appear in the retention center. If the external mark is 25% lower than class average, so that's for marks activity. Oh, this is activity and this is the actual mark. Sorry, I got confused myself there for a second. So this will be based on time spent on the course. And then default missed deadline rule will be 1 deadline missed, and they will show up in the grades in the retention center. Now, when I say show up, I mean this little red dot. So if this student missed 1 deadline, that red dot will show up. I can click on it and see 1 deadline has been missed, and there I can see the deadlines. There are 2 of them, and I can click on there to see which deadlines they missed. So let's go back to customize. I'm going to change these. I'm going to say for the default activity rule, I want to see if a user in the last 2 weeks is 30% below average, and then submit. Okay, we can also change that to above. Maybe I want to create a rule to see who's excelling. So in the last 4 weeks, I want to see who is 20% above average. Okay. And you can see now that that rule has been modified. Now, if your course access rule is maybe longer than 5 days, so you have a blended course, you don't require students to come into the course every day, but they need to do it weekly, you can maybe change that to 7 days, or you can change it to less days, to 1 day, depending on what your need is. And the same goes for all the others. So we just go through them and say, I want to monitor a specific item, and I want to monitor that semester 1 mark, because that's really the one that I care about, because that's the calculated mark. I want to say if a student is below 50%, it's going to show me. That way I know if a student is failing that calculated mark, I will see them in the retention center. You can also add extra ones by going up to create rules. So you can create more access rules. So if you want to have an access rule for if students are 1 day behind or 5 days behind, or if you want to, for instance, have a mark rule for students who are doing well and a mark rule for students who are not doing well. So we have one here that says below 50%. Now we can create one that says, I want to also see the students that are excelling, for instance. And I'm going to say, again, maybe that specific item, I want to know when they are doing well, they have above 75%. Submit. And that is how you create your rules. You can also delete them. So if you want to, for instance, not have the activity rule, you just click on it, delete it, and it will go away, and you'll have some extra space. When you're done, you just go back to the retention center, and you'll see that here are my new rules. This student is looking better already because I changed them up here. And I don't have any activity because I deleted that. We can restore default. There's no rules for that. If you want to, I think if we want to take that away, just go back, activity rule. I'm gonna exclude from risk table, and then it should disappear. Now I just did it, access and activity. Include that. Which one is the one that is? Oh, there we go. Let's see the activity one. I think I should have done that before I deleted it, excluded it. There is a name. I'm not entirely sure how we get rid of that. I'm going to look into it. It used to be that you just deleted it and went away, so I'm not sure why it's changed. Anyway, so this is your retention center. Now you can go and check in. So if you have a whole list, you will be able to scroll down and see your different students, and then the red dots will appear where students meet the criteria for that specific rule. So in case of missed deadline, we said that if a student misses a deadline by so many days, it will show up here. Then you can click on the student there under that rule, and you can see that this student has missed 1 deadline, and we can go and view which of these have they missed and how late they are. So this one is late for 167 days, so I'm going to think that that's never going to happen, but it is a nice way to quickly go. Now, if you, for instance, want to quickly get in touch with that student, you can just go to the little notify button and say notify the student. And it's going to send an email to that student. You can add recipients. So I always like to add myself so that I also have a copy of the email. And then you can change the subject because it's going to give you this very long one. I'm just going to say, and then it'll have a little default message that you can change. I just realized that I'm sending my colleague an email that's telling him to call me. It's going to be funny. Please call me so I can talk about your low grades. But he's going to know what this is about. And just put in your message here. You can attach a file and then submit. And now you quickly contacted that student. You will also receive an email, so you can store that email for your own auditing or proof, so that you have that paper trail that you have contacted the student. You can also go and monitor the student. So for instance, this student, I can go and check, also has a missed deadline. I'm worried about the student, but not yet so much. So I'm going to just monitor the student, click on that. And then that student is going to come up and I can keep an eye, and they have a little quick information here of all the 4 rules, just so that I can see, okay, well, the student has been on the subject 13 minutes ago. So I'm not too worried. I'm not going to contact them yet. I'm just going to keep an eye on them by monitoring them here. And you can monitor as many students as you want. And you'll just keep going up. If you want to remove a student from monitoring, just click on the little star and it will go away. Okay, so that is the retention center. So I know doing both of these in one session is a little bit overwhelming, but some of the assistant deans asked for this because apparently you guys are putting in your portfolios of evidences, getting them together for auditing and so on, and you need some of this information. And also test weeks are coming up. So we did them both in one. I hope it wasn't too much, but please make use of the video that I'm going to upload later to YouTube so that you can recap anything that I might have gone over too quickly or anything like that. And then now open up for questions. We have 2 minutes for questions. Again, if you can't think of anything now, you're always welcome to email me and just send me that question via email and I'll reply as soon as I can. I am putting the survey for the attendance link in the chat again. Please make sure that you fill in the attendance because I can't report on you attending if you haven't filled that out. So it'd be quite a waste of time if you sat through the entire hour but you didn't respond to the survey. So please make sure that you complete that. It's just a minute. Okay, any questions from anyone? Feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to put it in the chat. If you are happy, and you can also leave the session if you don't have any questions and you're happy with where you're at, you're welcome to leave and go and have your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leandri, it's Casper.
Hi, Casper. How are you?
I'm trying to survive.
Me too.
No, I'm still surviving.
Good. Good, good, good. Are you guys on campus?
Yeah, I'm on campus. But I was here before anything starts. But normally I'm early here, so.
No, I had a quick coffee there at Get Together, and then I was like, nah, I'm going home. I can do all of my work from home, so I'm sitting at home. It's lovely.
Yeah, no. Okay, bye.
Bye, have a nice weekend.
Dankie Leandri, mooi naweek.
Let's see everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Hayes.
Thank you very much. Lovely weekend.
Thank you all.